it's going to happen eventually. We're going to have a week that kind of goes as expected, where the favorites win, the underdogs lose, the general result of the fantasy games are kind of what we expect, and there aren't a ton of surprises. Or maybe I'm just not paying that much attention to football. I mean, it could be all of those things, but I think there was a lot of unexpected results in the NFL this week, and I'd say there are a lot of unexpected results in our fantasy league this week. So, anyways, good thing to podcast about. We've got the Panthers, Giants, and Eagles here with the Vikings. We're going to talk about some of those unexpected things, both in terms of the game results, the overall state of the league, and then 31 trades that have taken place between the last podcast and now. So, I don't know, RJ, how are you feeling? You sitting down? You ready to jump into the unknown here?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I won last week and I didn't have a quarterback.
Who needs a
So
quarterback?
I couldn't be happier.
Exactly. I mean, seriously, James, who needs a quarterback? I mean, especially when you've got someone as elite as Flacco.
I'm pretty happy. I scared the Bengals, and I traded away half my team.
Bengals had to make. Was he one of the ones that made a trade after 1 o'clock kickoffs?
I think so.
Yeah, so he scared him into that.
Yeah. Yep. And then, hey, Giants, it's looking good for you. You've got another division mate who's throwing in the towel.
I believe it when I see it. He's all talk right now through passive-aggressive trade bait messages.
All right. Well, we'll dive into that a little bit more as one of the unexpected things. So, as mentioned, last week was slightly unexpected. One of those unexpected things, as as James indicated, was the fact that after the just tearing it down, trading for picks, and just free for all on his roster, he was still able to put up what was it, 210 points and make it look like the Bengals match was going to be a heck of a lot closer than we all expected. So definitely a move we weren't expecting to have going. We had, like I said, a couple trades that were surprising, but in terms of results, the other one that was a big shock for me was let me find it here.
Tennessee, Washington.
Yeah, Tennessee not just beating the Commanders, but beating them by 50. And then on top of that, the Cardinals, who we spent a good portion of last week saying, should they go all in? Should they tear it down? Dropping 227, one of the higher scores of the week. So I think there are some of us saying, hey, you don't own your first, go for it. But putting 227 up there, he's thinking about coming after Rams for the NFC West here. So the West is definitely not yet won.
We also have, speaking of results, Rams and Chiefs from last week, which it's really close, so it's not necessarily decided yet.
0.11. And I think that was one of the ones where he traded for a punter to give himself the edge. So we'll see if any punting averages or punting counting stats change to adjust the results there. But as it stands right now, Goose did help Cardinals pick up a win. So right now, again, speaking of the West, the Cardinals are just a game behind at 5-5, and the Rams are 6-4. So they're right there in that. And if nothing else, they are a game back from what appears to be the record you need to stay in the wild card hunt. So by no means is the NFC West set, or is the NFC wild card set. So some
Rams also just lost the wide receiver, another player for the year, Marquise Brown.
Yeah, Hollywood went down. They didn't say. Did they say for the year? I thought they just said he was going to go on IR, but they weren't sure about for the year.
It sounded like 4 to 6 weeks to potentially the year.
Yeah,
everything I saw. Also, the Raiders just traded for Aaron Jones for some Jonathan Taylor help, and Aaron Jones is now out for 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, some bad luck all around, I'd say. So, definitely, like we said, some surprising results. And again, another declaration, as I mentioned at the top, that the Commanders at 6-4, looking up 3 games behind their division leader in the thick of a wild card race, is throwing the white flag up, which, again, trying to remain impartial here, if he gets what he needs to for his pieces, could be a pretty good move. The offense, as we always thought, was elite, but that defense, I mean, how many F's do you spell that oof with? That joke apparently didn't land very well.
He definitely seems to be in the same position I was kind of in. You're fielding offers and you're willing to break it down, but unless you get one offer that you really feel you can make big moves on, I don't think he's going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think his problem is going to be that there's not a lot of teams that are looking for competitive pieces that have like 23 firsts left. A lot of the tanking teams have stockpiled a bunch of those picks, right? So like if every tanking team has at least 2, I mean, that's, at least a third of the league already out of any meaningful kind of pieces he can look to get back and tearing it down this offseason or this season.
I think there's only 17 teams with draft picks next year.
Yeah.
In the first round.
That's kind of insane.
You also have to deal with, the Mike Evans and Tyreek Hill contracts being $22 million plus going to contenders, difficult to fit.
Right. In the case of like somebody that is a buyer right now, most obvious one on the trade bait is Cardinals. Cardinals doesn't have the
he doesn't have a cap room. I don't think
right.
It can work. Yeah,
and it doesn't look compatible. Like in the sense that if you take something that's high dollar away from Cardinals, you're also taking points. So like you're not going to get the best of value.
Right, and then it comes down to where is that team that has a underperforming or large contract that you could flip around there. Like, again, the Buccaneers could potentially do something, but they don't really have the draft capital or injured player to add to, say, Braxton Berrios, who is putting up points, so it may not be the piece you move, but that's a big contract that could potentially make something work. Packers have already traded in a lot of their draft capital, so can't really make the big moves. And then, unfortunately, for the Raiders, where they traded in their draft capital to get Aaron Jones, having some issues. Now, if they wanted to go back the other direction and say, all right, this isn't going to work out, let's start selling, they've got to get their picks back first if they can. So that's a challenge. I mean, there's 24 picks that he traded away, so it's different. But you got some work to do for this one. It's definitely one of those where you have to hustle a little bit harder to get the teams you need to get engaged here. But
well, Mike, it looks like it's your responsibility to move Taylor Heineke, Carson Wentz, and something else, and start buying up some assets.
Well, I have.
Really crazy if you moved Carson Wentz, right?
I already have. We just need to wait for the commissions to get on this.
Oh, okay.
But we'll save that for a bit later, unless they actually did do something.
No, it's still pending.
Yeah.
I don't have my draft picks yet.
Yeah. So then, okay, let's kind of dive into Commanders here. So if they were to tear it down, obviously the big pieces that they want to move would be Cook at $12 million. Gibson's probably a challenge to move right now with the uncertain role in Washington. Evans,
that's a pretty certain backup role.
I don't know if anything's certain in Washington right now. Is I guess my bigger thought. A QB change, a coach change that's very likely this year at some point.
Ownership change.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't bet on anything happening or definitely happening one way or the other in Washington. So I won't count out to Antonio Gibson yet. And frankly, maybe the Commanders go full crazy and swap him and Cam Akers. Give both an opportunity in a new location. Akers is maybe a better fit next to what they want to do with Gibson and not give with Robinson, and Gibson gives that change of pace guy or backfield guy that McVay wants. So who knows? Issue with DK, of course, is a fifth-year option kicking in next year, and that is not going to be super affordable. Tyreek and Mike Evans already being 22 and 23 million respectively. So, it's probably looking like, with picks consolidated, this is going to be, let me get 2 or 3, younger guys or upside guys that are either injured or I'm going to have to wait on a little bit instead of getting a pick back because they're not really there to be had.
Yeah, I don't see him being able to really do much. There's plenty of people that probably wanted DeMarcus Lawrence, but he's also 30. So, what can you really get for a 30-year-old defensive end from one of these contending teams? Like, he's going to fit cap wise, so he's probably his easiest piece to move. But at the same point in time, a 30-year-old who has most of his production in like 2 games this year, it's going to be kind of hard to sell.
Yeah, and I think ultimately he's also at a point where he's not really looking to move one piece. He kind of wants to like deconstruct a bunch of these pieces. And like if you can't move the wide receivers, what's the point of moving DeMarcus Lawrence? You might as well have him.
I mean, the
for
obvious
this
trade
year.
partner here is the Browns. Russell Wilson is having some major challenges this year. He's a $33 million quarterback who is not living up to that value. Browns are serious contenders. Would he entertain a swap of Wilson and some of the younger receivers that he has, like a Sky Moore or a Terry McLaurin, to get a lesser quarterback, but upgrade to a Mike Evans or a Tyreek Hill or something like that, where, again, I just back the envelope, like Russ Wilson and Sky Moore plus some compensation for Tua and Mike Evans or Tyreek Hill works. Like to take the Dolphin stack, drop it on that team, and you're probably looking a little bit more dangerous.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because that's the other thing. Like between Robinson on that contract, he seems to be finding more and more of a role in LA at this point, which is an understatement because he probably couldn't find less of one. Sky Moore, cost control guy like Logan Thomas. There's pieces that if he was willing to take a package of maybe a pick and younger guys, he's going to be able to make something work there. Trying to see if there's another obvious
I
team
just
there.
don't think Browns is a guy who's going to be going all in. I think he likes his team. He's going to roll with it, and he's just going to continue to flush it out through the draft.
Yeah,
And
the
just
other option,
continue to be competitive.
I guess the other option is Titans.
Booyah.
Rashad Penny, losing him. If he wanted to say, okay, I don't want to have to pay DK Metcalf, let me put that off for a year. So we again, Cook and DK Metcalf for Rashad Penny and CD Lamb and some kind of draft compensation, maybe something that is worth pulling the string on there. You get younger at receiver. You don't have to pay him next year because he's got one more year until the 5th-year option kicks in. Penny goes on IR and then eventually is off your roster next year, so it frees up cap to potentially do other things. And starts giving you some flexibility because cap space is going to be his biggest challenge to make some of these moves.
I have cap space.
And again, sometimes that's a great facilitator when it comes down to blowing things up or making things work. All right, enough about Commanders. Any other major surprises in terms of teams or kind of state of the league?
Let me go back to the standings. There are some things that have gotten interesting. The NFC West is a lot closer than anticipated. Like I even think the 49ers have like some type of a shot. They're only 2 games back.
Well, I was trying to remember.
Only they would actually do something.
Right. I mean, we're going to get into this conversation of like, oh, all of these teams have a shot, and then nobody's going to make a trade. And
for me, it's not huge, but just how much the injuries have taken out the bite out of the Bengals. Like the Bengals have been averaging essentially 210 to 230 ever since you have Keenan go down and all the injuries he's been dealing with. Whereas early this season, he was looking like if you didn't put up 240, 250, you weren't going to be in the same ballpark as him. And then just will he actually be able to bounce back from that, given that Amon-Ra is really about to come back next week, and it's also sounding like there's a chance we might be seeing Jamison Williams here in the next couple weeks too. So that takes away some of that offensive prowess on that team.
How is so the AFC is basically decided at this point? We're just like they're jockeying for position for the rest of the season.
Essentially, the biggest thing is going to be the AFC North head-to-heads, because if Browns loses a couple of games here and there to his division rivals, and if Chargers can just fend off the Chiefs, he gets the 1 seed. There's not a lot there when it comes to the playoff race.
So, I mean, no, Raiders couldn't even like they might be able to find their way in, but it's very unlikely.
Yeah, they're the only team, and they're definitely a long shot. At the same time, though, they've definitely had the most disappointments, so it would make sense for second half bounce back for them, because Darius Leonard, Shaquille Leonard, whatever you want to call him, he hasn't done anything. Marcus Davenport being a Pro Bowler for us last year, nothing. Alec Pierce is starting to come out of his shell. Mike Williams might get a little bit, maybe less volume, but more TD production when Keenan Allen comes back. And then Jonathan Taylor hasn't done much this season. And then he's without Aaron Jones for at least a week or two. And Green Bay seems to be in the rumors for every receiver that might potentially be available.
Yeah, and again, no one's quite sure what Green Bay is going to do. It looks like things are falling off the wagon here. So what do you do there?
With what team?
Green Bay. Real life Green Bay, I think, not fake Green Bay.
Okay. I was like, yeah, Green Bay should fire Sell, just like Panthers and Commanders.
I think that would kill Jeremy to do. Like, he is the ultimate, I'm buying until I'm eliminated, and then I'm selling.
That's fair.
Yeah, to lose back-to-back weeks to both of the Giants and Jets at home is huge. I don't know when the last time the Packers have actually even had back-to-back losses at home. They've been that dominant at home for such a long stretch.
Well, the Giants game was in London, so it was technically a home game, but not really.
Yeah, okay. But that was still a big surprise.
Yeah.
Giants to knock them out.
All right. So should we jump into the trades?
Oh boy.
Sure were a lot of them.
So we're going to start with the one that makes RJ the happiest.
I don't know. You haven't heard my opinion on some of these trades.
Okay, fair enough. So as it seems to be tradition this year, I go acquire New England's first-round pick in a year, and at some point New England wants it back. So we started out with Kavonta Turpin, Ogbonia, and Jalen Brown, and the 24 draft class going back to New England for Boye Mafe, Green Bay's first and Tampa's second in 23. So Patriots gets his draft class back to be able to make this a longer-term rebuild. I grab the end I like and a couple of late picks in 23. So I think it's a win-win for both sides. But again, Patriots is now in control of his draft class. So we'll see how long this lasts before he's trading it off again.
Yeah, I don't mind this deal. I mean, like it's like you got good value, like getting Mafe basically for like swapping picks and a couple extra thrown in there. I like the Mafe side of it.
It's definitely a meh trade. The big thing is just the Pats. That team needs more than a year. Getting his picks back is pretty big for him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, he's going to turn, if he tears his team down like he knows how to, that pick's going to end up being a pretty early one in 24. So on the table, he'll look like, oh, yeah, it's a D end, and, look at all these late picks for a 101. So it's going to look great for him. But in terms of kind of hitting that midpoint in some of these deals, like I like to say, is is a challenge. But I think he and I tend to do that. Backup quarterbacks that may become starting quarterbacks. Skylar Thompson, of course, started in Miami last week, and Rodney Thomas for Brett Ripon and Nick Scott. I don't know. Russ is not cooking in Denver, so maybe Ripon gets a chance here. What do you guys think?
Well, the MRI, didn't he have an MRI today? Or
Yeah.
is that tomorrow?
Yeah.
So, regardless of how he looks, that might be the starter for some amount of time.
The head coach there is still Nathaniel Hackett, though, right?
Somehow.
For the
Unfortunately,
moment.
I like getting Nick Scott. Like that's a nice little get for Browns.
Yep. Bill picks up another fifth for swapping punters, then eats about $25 million in cap, but grabs I think it was Lorenzo Carter. He's on a 2-year deal.
I think Carter.
What's that?
Carter was on a 1-year deal. I think he extended him.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
he
he
did.
takes him the year, so we could renegotiate it. I guess so. That's fine, but again, using his cap as a potential weapon here. Packers continuing his push to get a title this year. Harrison Smith, his 23 third, his 24 first, and his 24 third to the Panthers for Tyler Boyd and Jonathan Abram. So Panthers immediately taking that freed up cap space and putting it to work. Also, again, I think the next 6 trades here are all Panthers. So normally I try and group these together, but this is just too many to try and group together. So let's talk about them one by one. So I'll start and say I'm impressed you got that back for a Boyd and safety swap. I didn't see Boyd is still worth a first at this point, but maybe the contract pushes us above there. And yeah, I don't know. That's an offense that's nice to have a piece of.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good return.
I think for him, it's just the stacking factor. You just got Lazard, and then you also add Boyd, to where he went from having essentially 2 receivers who's relying on heavily every week, in Sutton and Cup, to where he has 4. So even though Boyd might not be the best, it gave him another really good floor guy. And I gave up my first for him, so he sees that there's other people that would do a similar thing.
Yeah, and again, I think there was a time where health was not guaranteed or really even projected for some of the Bengals receivers, so that's fair. Then you go ahead and ship off McCole Hardman and that not so attractive 5th-year option for Josh Jones and your third back in 24. I like this for you. I think it makes sense from a piece perspective. I think safeties, again, are plentiful. And Hardman is really on that 1-year deal, so it makes sense. Cool.
What was the 5th-year value going to be for Hardman?
It was around 17.
Yeah.
Well, I did the math on it, and then at one point when I was considering about keeping everyone together, I just realized keeping Hardman was never really going to be realistic for me. So get what I could for him. I would have preferred to have probably waited for this week for him to actually produce a couple weeks in a row. I might have been able to get a little bit more if I also threw a pick in, but I'll take what I can get.
Yeah, I don't hate the idea of selling, but I do agree. Probably should have gotten more or waited and gotten more.
He terrifies me because I swear every game he gets hurt in some way that looks absolutely painful as hell, and then manages to just march right back out next drive. And I'm just like, one of these is going to be real.
It's just watching him too. Everyone keeps saying Hardman's going to break out this year. He's just not going to.
Yeah. All right. Then another big one, getting rid of Aaron Jones from the Panthers, picking back up Cole Turner, Monty Rice, a Vegas 24 first, a Vegas 24 third, a Vegas 25 third, and a Bears 23 fifth. So first, third, and some fun pieces. I'm also a fan of Cole Turner. I think he really showed out well in Nevada as a member of the Wolfpack last year. Rice is a younger linebacker who's going to get some opportunity in Tennessee at some point. And the best two things about Jones are that contract and his consistency. But coming back from being injured, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I like this for Panthers. I don't really like this for Raiders.
Again, it was hindsight being 2020. Panthers also selling Raheem Mostert for Mark Ingram in 2/3. Probably about the right value for a guy on following year of his deal. Ingram has disappointed, I'd say, in terms of potential to grab a role in New Orleans with Kamara hurt. But again, who knows what's happening there? That rib injury that Kamara had was a cartilage injury similar to Herbert, so it's going to have to be a pain management issue all year. So there's some opportunity for him to potentially peak back up, and then picking up Jimmy Ward in a 4th for Harrison Smith from the Chargers. Again, good value. The question there becomes Ward coming back from injury, but the youth is nice, and I think the contract is much nicer than Harrison Smith's.
It's like $2 million difference.
Yep. Once Ward's healthy and sold off, then like you get the real idea of what like Harrison was sold for. But I think it's fine.
Yep.
Fine for both sides, actually.
Then Panthers, again, moving Carter and a 3rd for Uche Granderson and a 2nd. I like the move up using Carter. It's a 2-year deal, and it's a reasonable contract from a points perspective. Browns needs a little receiver help, so it's a cheap way to do it. But I like the value that Panthers got back for a player who probably wasn't going to be part of his core going forward.
I think it's a bit much to ask for a pick upgrade, but it's fine. Like good on Panthers for getting it, and like I guess it's certainly something that like Browns needs, but like I don't know if paying a 2nd for like a 2nd down to a 3rd is what I would pay for DeAndre Carter.
Yep. Let's see. Trading a 5th for Jack Jones. Solid pickup. It's corner, though, so we're not going to spend much time talking about it. Khalil Mack, finally selling him to the Colts for Al-Qadin, Kingsley, and Egbare, 2/3. Again, just continuing to accumulate 3rds, which I think are a great value pick in this league. And then Al-Qadin seems to be in more of a rotation, I think, than people were thinking. But still $12 million on a D end in a role on a decent defense is worth something in this league. So Mack had a hell of a start, but unlikely he was going to continue that pace throughout the year. So would probably prefer to sell higher, but I'd still like the return.
I don't understand why Colts is buying somebody like Khalil Mack.
Again, I spent enough last week. Sorry, not speaking kindly of Colts and their moves. So I'm going to learn from my experience from Bill and not be a negative dark cloud guy 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I actually really like Kingsley too. He just last couple weeks to start getting more snaps, ramped up, and got his first sack last week.
Nice.
Moving up, Panthers again. Mike Purcell and Jalen Watson for a 4th. Again, Packers continues to round out the defense now. Purcell,
solid depth for a 4th round pick. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, I sent that to him. I picked up Purcell for 4th. I had an extra corner after giving up the 5th. I just figured I could at least get my 4th back this way. So
Yeah, those are the type of deals, like they're small, but they're like what contenders like dream of. Because like you'd imagine he's probably been not necessarily shopping at, like super actively, but like at least trying to find something to use that 4th for like an upgrade at maybe defensive tackle or maybe a cornerback, but to find both for that's great value.
Yeah. Let's see. Then flipping Al-Qadin to Chiefs, again, having some value, picking up a 4th, and Antonio Wesley, again, seems to be finding not quite finding a role yet. Been injured, but definitely has a role once he's back off the IR, I'd say. Then swapping kickers, taking on the greatest kicker of all time, Justin Tucker, for a 4th to 5th jump. Buccaneers giving up Sherwood for free. I think that was just part of some of the activation and taxi squad type things that he was trying to deal with. So understood. Again, he said it was free and Rams was first to respond. Cardinals giving up Austin Hooper and getting Barrios back. I don't understand this trade.
Nope. Cardinals probably needs the wide receiver more than he needs the tight end.
Right. Again, Barrios is expensive, no question about that. But he's scoring about just under 10 points per game. That's pretty solid for a floor receiver. And he's getting touches in the special teams, the running game, and the receiving game. He's kind of the offensive weapon there. Again, he's not Deebo Samuel. When we say he's in a Deebo Samuel role, I'm not saying he is a clone of Deebo Samuel, but that offensive weapon type role that the Niners like to use Deebo in, that's what the Jets are using Barrios in. So it's not going to be a ton of touches, but it's going to be high leverage touches in special teams. So it's a great grab, I think, by Buccaneers for an albatross tight end.
Yeah, especially a tight end that he's been trying to get rid of for just since the offseason.
Yep. Let's see. Brown's giving up Ahmed for free. I don't recall if this is a taxi squad theft or just a straight up dump, but Ahmed's done nothing this year while he's been in Miami. He hasn't really had a chance. So, hey, good on you if you're going to stash him, but so far not so good. So we're going to get to the big deal from the week. I was kind of surprised when this came across on Friday. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but I've had a history of jumping on Bill on these podcasts, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to read it and kind of step away from the conversation. Bill gave up his first-round pick next year to get George Pickens. He trades Pickens and the Panthers first back to him, which is probably going to be a mid-first. If he has his druthers and misses the playoffs, it's going to be probably in around 15 or 16. And Pickens for the Colts first this year, the Colts second this year, and the Rams second next year. I understand it. I know where the Colts are. I know where I think the Colts are going to finish. I don't love it. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I think it's a fine trade. Like, what's Colts going to win? 4 games this year? 5 games this year?
So Colts doesn't control his first or this year or his first next year.
Mm-hmm.
He's pushed in to try and win this year. Again, he's got a really hard schedule, so he's not going to pick up a ton of wins. But
he's got a chance to pick up a few. He plays the Texans this week. He plays you next week, the Eagles, that is. The Jaguars, the Commanders, which if they do go tank and blow it up, that's interesting. Then they play the Cowboys, the Packers, and the Titans. So I'd say he's got the chance in the last, games to potentially win 3 or 4.
Yeah. So that's still going to be better than Panthers pick. So that's an upgrade. Then you take on 2 more seconds. You get rid of points now. I understand he already went out and bought Pickens, but it's already done.
Best case, I think he's trading Pickens to move up 7 spots in the draft.
Yeah,
and getting
some seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like it, but again,
I mean, I think if you look at it in a vacuum, regardless of what he paid to get Pickens, I didn't hate it either. I thought it was, he's just trying to get as many top 15 picks as he can.
Yep. Broncos asked me about this before it was done, and I was like, yeah, I would take that. So like I like the trade then. I still like the trade for him now. Like yeah, I know like you would want Pickens to be like, you know, a lot more valuable, but for the opportunity to move into another like top 10-ish pick, like that's fine because like hopefully he finds a wide receiver that is comparable or better.
The other thing that I would mention, he is a Steelers fan. Like maybe he just knows something about their usage of Pickens or their thoughts on him or what he sees that offense looking like and doesn't really want a piece of it.
All right, good enough. Let's see, Chiefs. I don't know if that's a theft or just a give up, but giving D. Alford for nothing to the Colts. Colts giving Chauncey Golston for nothing to the Panthers. Falcons getting a 23-4 for Brandon Powell. We're getting into Sunday here, so some pre-game trades. Browns giving up Amik Robertson for Giants 5th. So the Giants picking up a corner. I don't know much about Robertson.
He's a kind of a big play corner who's kind of starting to take off this year.
All right, yeah, and he's mid-salary, 1 year. So if you're going to use a 5th on someone, not a bad place for it to go. As mentioned, Bengals buying players during the games to try and do what he could to eke out a win. It seemed to be enough for him, but trading a 3rd for Ben Skoranek, who is, again, kind of in that weapon role, and picked up 16.7 points for the Bengals this week. So timely pickup. And for the price of a 3rd for how they're using him, that could end up being a nice little steal.
I'm honestly shocked that he got for a 3rd because Goose and I were talking about him weeks ago for a 5th.
If wrapped inside of another deal, I probably would have paid more for him.
Well, the problem here is didn't extend, and Skoranek is Skoranek's not a rookie.
No,
yeah, that was a massive fumble on Bengals.
So, okay, yeah. So, min salary, 1 year contract. So, needed to trade extend him. So, I wouldn't be shocked if the Bengals try to recoup some value, like try and trade him for a 4th.
Struck in 20. No, he couldn't be extended until the end of the year. Because isn't it minimum 2 years?
He's not on a rookie contract, which is
Yeah.
what I keep getting tripped up on. But so no, he could have been trade extended as long as this has 8 games of stats.
Am I losing my mind assuming that was one of the restrictions inside regular just trades was minimum 2 years?
At one point, yes.
Okay.
But,
okay. All right. So I'm not completely crazy.
Yeah, there were fewer guys on rookies getting given up on and things like that. It was rare that having a guy within 2 years wasn't on his rookie contract.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, then Bengals might be able to squeeze some extra value out of him somewhere if somebody wants to capitalize on that.
Then Chiefs paying to eke out their win here after giving up Skoranek to give up a 5th to go get the Titans punter to give him a Monday Night Miracle. Looked like it was just enough pending score corrections, so we'll see. Rams moving off of going and getting Austin Johnson for a 4th. Get nice little pickup for a 4th round pick. Again, I think he's been in trade discussions, especially on that contract for higher capital. So good on Rams for getting him on probably the cheap side. Another punter swap kicker swap for a 5th. Then we're back into we're still in this week. Biggest trade so far of the week, I'd say. Zeke, Percy Butler, and McCourty for Gainwell, Chark, Bates, Titans 2nd, and Seahawks 4th. I think that's awesome value for Zeke. Really spreads things out for Giants and really starts to shore up some of the pieces that may not be strong positions for him. But again, Giants receiving core just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I was surprised by some of the comments in chat after the trade. I think Bengals was like, I don't understand this for Giants at all. And I was, I don't know. I think if you're breaking an aging star down into multiple pieces, like not only for this year do I think I have the same amount of points, if not more, now spread across a couple of their positions that were lacking depth, but also like going forward, I added a second and an early fourth on top of these younger pieces. They're all 26 and under. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I thought this was great.
Yeah, the fact he got that fourth for giving him Austin Johnson. Again, I like it a lot. Chark, I didn't realize has not really played in the last couple of weeks, so maybe more of a salary dump than anything to make the numbers work. But I think he can still find his way back to the field someplace.
When he's playing, he's getting like 60 to 80% of the snaps. Like he's their wide receiver too behind Amon-Ra. I know Jameson might be coming back, but I assume that's going to be a really slow integration of him in the offense. Chark is 26 and fast as hell, and he's 6'4". Like I think he's going to have a role in the NFL outside of the Lions after this year.
Yep.
Yeah, I love Kenneth Gainwell. So as soon as I saw that name, I'm like, okay, he got a good return.
That's the other thing is if you look at the I think Goose paid a first and a second for Gainwell in the offseason, back when before Miles Sanders was expected to like finish out the year, I guess. But yeah, I think
I bought Gainwell at some point for around 3 seconds as well.
That's right. Yeah, I look back at that too.
Yeah.
Okay, finishing up here. Giants making another move, basically picking up a return man and 2 free fourths from Pat. So really like this for Giants here also. Any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I saw the draft picks and yeah.
Let's see. Then Hodgins given to the Colts for free, and then backup quarterback swap after just getting Skyler, swapping him for Stidham, where it looks like Tua is going to be back in the fold here. The sheer number of trades that Skylar Thompson has been involved in is a little bit surprising, but what can you do? And then the one happening on while we've been having the pod here, Wentz going down, so using that empty contract to make a move with Packers first and Titans second this year for Roquan Smith. So again, impact player, linebacker on the expensive side, but helps solidify that rotation for me, especially considering some injuries I'm dealing with and a guy who I should be able to count on for the next couple of years. So for
what was Wentz's contract?
What
was Wentz's contract?
17 million, 3 years left.
Yeah.
Sorry, how many years left?
3.
That's
the thing.
Return on Roquan, I think. I mean, I love Roquan. I like a first and a second for a $15 million linebacker is pretty good.
Yeah, I mean the bigger thing for it is I think he's worth the first. The second piece of it was a little bit because of the value, I think, to make up for the fact that Jeremy's first was looking very late. But the other aspect of it being I'm basically dumping Wentz's contract. If I cut him, he's $8 million, but then extends with another piece of dead cap for 2 more years after that, which I'd prefer not to do. The cap's going to go up, but I wouldn't mind not having to worry about that contract. So I saw it as acquiring of Roquan in that space, but also getting off of the Wentz contract.
Yeah, and I'm sure, James, your thinking is maybe if Wentz comes back and is starting again, you can flip him for something.
Yeah, he's going to be coming back probably after the trade deadline, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to move him for anything. There's just a lot of teams that are QB needy, and there's only so many good ones that can come out in any given year. And I feel Carson Wentz is not great, but I think, we've already seen 2 teams look at him as their bridge guy, and I think there's a chance he might be the bridge guy for a few more teams going forward. He might become the next Ryan Fitzpatrick, where he just suited up for 14 teams because he's just decent enough when he does play.
He hasn't even hit that bottom. Like he hasn't even been relegated to the Fitzpatrick role. So like he has some like a few more seasons to do that before he's completely irrelevant.
I just I'm not a Wentz believer. The last 3 teams have now done with it. I don't know. I don't.
There's just so many teams that I could honestly look at and just be like, do they even have a quarterback though? Like you look at the Panthers, you look at the Saints, the Falcons, the Bears.
Well, they're about to draft one. Panthers.
I
Bears.
mean, I don't.
He could be competition for Danny Dimes because Danny Dimes is at Danny
Oh my
Dimes.
God,
Even
that
though
would
they're
be
winning games.
that would be my. Oh God.
I was a Cowboys fan. That'd be like my wet dream, but you know,
Oh yeah.
they'd do it.
That
They'd
was
do
their
it.
right for when I applauded the Eagles for signing Wentz to that stupid deal. I was so happy because I was never afraid of him, and then that would be my just desserts. He's a giant next year.
So, opinion on the trade? I don't like it for Mike at all.
Cool.
I feel like it's a huge overpay for Roquan, but if that's the linebacker that like that's your guy, like I also think it's somewhat reasonable. Like if you think Heineke takes the quarterback role for the foreseeable future, at least for enough time for you to find another quarterback, and like Roquan was the linebacker that you wanted, like you have the disposable picks. But
Well, I still have the disposable pick to go get a quarterback if I want to.
Right. But in the vacuum of just that, not taking into consideration the other asset, like not taking into consideration your overall haul of like assets, I don't really like the value for Roquan. But it's not like some egregious, like, oh, you paid 3 times the value. It was just a bit much.
Yeah,
He's still the linebacker 1 total points.
Yeah, I think if he was, because like his situation in Chicago is also a little bit up in the air. That would be my like main hesitation. Like if he signs long term and he's just going to be that tackle leader on a shitty defense, I think that's great. But I it's splitting like because like is the first enough? I mean, probably not. So like, is a late second really that much to like dislike the value for? I don't know. Mike, your defense is really coming together. I still fawn over your defensive end room.
Yeah, his defense is very nasty.
Yeah.
No, good. Bill, thanks for joining.
Hello. How's it going?
We're just kind of finishing up the trade conversation. Any thoughts you want to share in terms of any of the trades taking place over the last 32?
We were just talking about yours with Wentz. I think you paid up for Roquan in order to make it so that he would take Wentz back from you, and that's
Basically,
that's
yeah.
I mean, to get rid of Wentz in that horrible contract, like worth the pay up.
Yeah, I was trying to do it for cheaper, but again, I think buying 1-year deals, people are all for like eating the cap. The 3-year deal was the thing that was really killing me in terms of trying to dump that.
Yeah.
Oh, I just look at it and like you could have taken like you can take that first and probably go buy somebody like Judon for like far cheaper, and you don't have to do all the like you don't have to jump over the hurdles with the Wentz contract, and then you can tie Wentz up and that second inside of like a quarterback upgrade and still end up with like Heineke and another startable quarterback.
So
John's like 29, like Roquan's 25. I don't know.
I'm just using a player, a high scoring player. Like if we're talking about just the first and the second, like go buy Jordan Brooks from Pittsburgh.
that's fair.
Like and then not have to do the quarterback.
I don't think that happened. But
I'm I could be wrong. It could be more than that, but just that type of a player. Like you can go buy the first and second and buy like a young stud that like doesn't have all the money associated with them, and then you don't have to do the like quarterback carousel. Like I know Wentz isn't like the ideal
Oh
thing,
my god!
but you
Did he
already
actually
have
mean
his
to send that
backup.
to me?
What?
Okay, well I accepted that. I hope that's what he meant to send. We'll find out.
Okay.
Okay.
let's broadcast it live because we can't guarantee our lovely commissioners are going to be on top of that while we're still recording.
Yeah. If this was the intended trade, Ezekiel Elliott and J.D. McKissick for the Chiefs' second, Vikings' third.
What?
What?
Yeah, we've been talking for a while, and I did
There's-
not like
there's
what he
no
was
way that
giving
was
me. So
intentional.
uh,
There's
it's
no-
honestly not that far off from our last offer.
There's no first involved in that. There's no way that's intentional.
I mean, he just bought Zeke off me for a second, fourth, plus 3 players.
I need space first. Oh yeah, I gotta move players.
Well, congratulations, I guess.
Okay. Well, we're gonna see some movement here.
Hey, all I can say is that takes all the heat off Pickens.
Hey, James, that's also that's still more than you offered me for Zeke.
Yes, it is, but it's also got J.D. McKissick in it. No, I talked with him as soon as he got Zeke, and
Wow.
we sent back and forth several offers. That was not the counter I was expecting it back, but it's not.
Bill,
So
you can
how's your finger feeling? Did you break it there?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, Carson Wentz, now that he's on your team, can recommend a great finger surgeon.
Yeah, now I just need to go get a quarterback.
Oh, back to competing.
Ooh, time to go steal Trey Sermon.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for stealing my Trey Sermon.
I have not yet, but I'm thinking about it
I'll make
because I don't have
space.
space for any of it now.
Yeah, I gotta make space, and I have the cap. I just gotta move Amir Abdullah now.
All right.
Bill,
All right. Well, that
RJ.
gets us to 51 minutes, so kind of a shorter episode this week, but we'll keep trying to make some moves happen after pod. So, any parting thoughts, gentlemen?
I like trades.
trade deadline is in like 2 weeks and 2 days.
It's gonna be a sad day.
Yeah,
Day after trade deadline, that is.
the league dies at the once trade deadline is.
I mean, with so many people trying to kill it, like, fuck do you expect?
I was a misclick. Sad
It was
face.
misclick.
Yeah, I'll be sending it back to him.
All right. Well, at least we know what a starting line is.
What draft picks was that again? Chiefs second, Vikings third, right?
Yeah. I mean, my third's looking pretty good. What can I say?
James, I'm officially notifying you that I claimed Trey Sermon.
I'll have
You
it picked
send
back up in
The
2
note there
seconds.
too, but yeah.
What's up?
Anyways. So, thanks everyone for watching. We'll keep the conversation going here and see if we can make some trades happen. But happy dealing.
Bye bye.
Bye.